Hello, this is Sondra Oster Baras bringing you a few words of Bible from the heart of Biblical Israel. This week's Torah portion is Tezave, and as we mentioned last week, it continues the instructions that are given to the children of Israel to build the tabernacle. And a good part of this Torah portion talks about the priests, about Aaron and his sons, and the various commandments that have to do with what they are involved with, their clothing, and special things that they are doing. At the very, very end, or towards the end of the Torah portion, we have something that refers back at the very beginning of Truma, last week's Torah portion. We have the introduction to all of this tabernacle building. We have God saying, "They shall make me a temple so that I shall dwell within them." And here we have a parallel verse where it begins by saying, I will sanctify the tent of meeting, God is speaking, I will sanctify the tent of meeting and the altar, and Aaron and his children I will sanctify to serve me, okay? And so first of all, we have specifics about these things, the tent of meeting, which of course encompasses all the other instruments within it, the altar, which is outside of it, Aaron and his sons who are going to serve. All of them will have a very special role. They will be sanctified. Why? To serve God. Each one of these, whether it's Aaron or whether it's the various instruments in the place, is there to serve God. And then we have, of course, the next verse, and I will dwell within the nation of Israel, and I will be for them as a God. And they will know that I am the Lord their God, who took them out of the land of Egypt, so that I may dwell within them. I am the Lord their God. And here we have then not just the purpose of the tabernacle, which we learned before, a way for God to dwell within the nation of Israel, okay? But here we have something additional. Not just that there's three steps going on here. Number one, that God will dwell within the nation of Israel, okay? Number two, they will know that the Lord their God is the one who took them out of Egypt, okay? So there's this idea of understanding that the amazing, don't forget this is just a few weeks after the Exodus from Egypt, so it's for them to understand that God, that amazing God of Israel who wrought all these miracles and took them out of Egypt, this is the same who is their God, who is the God of Israel, who is seeking a way to dwell within them, making it easier for the nation of Israel to focus their lives and the meaning of their lives on God through this tabernacle. But then it says something else. I took them out of Israel in order for me to dwell within them, okay? And that's really a whole different ballgame. In other words, there is this idea of selection, which we saw at the very, very beginning of the book of Exodus. It wasn't just a question of there was a beleaguered people in Egypt, and they were slaves, and they were suffering terribly, and their name was Israel. And so God heard their cries and said, wow, I feel really sorry for them. These people shouldn't be oppressed, and I'm going to release them. That's clearly part of what's going on, and we see that at the beginning in Exodus chapter 2. We see that at the beginning it says, chapter 2, verse 2, it says, the king of Egypt died. There's a change of kings, and it says, and the children of Israel sighed from the labor, and they cried out, and their cries went up to God from their work. In other words, there's clearly a cry of suffering because of the enslavement that's reaching God's ears. And then it says, and God heard their cries, okay, but what's the next part of that verse? And he remembered his covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Okay, so it's not even over here. It's not just that God is saying, I feel sorry for these people. It's they feel sorry for these particular people because he has promised the original forefathers that it's this particular people that he's going to take out. Okay, and then we have that concept as well in chapter 4 where God says, to Moses, he said, this is what you're going to say to Pharaoh, my firstborn son, Israel. So he already, and of course in that context, send them out, release them, free them. But it's very much coming from this idea of this is my firstborn son. I have a covenant with the forefathers that and the promise that These are particular people. It's not just any people. These are people that I have selected. These are the people I have chosen. But there's a process for this. In other words, God knows this. God chose them. But these people now have been hundreds of years in slavery, and they haven't felt God's presence. And so God has to create a situation, not just that he helps them out. I mean, arguably, if the whole thing was about having them be freed from slavery, they didn't have to leave Egypt. Okay, they could have, some kind of miracle could have happened where Pharaoh would say, okay, no more slavery, you're free to go, you can do whatever you want, you can go back to living in Goshen, for example, and live nicely in the way you did when Joseph was alive. I mean, there's all these different kinds of things, and if they wanted to just, remember God, so God could have said, pray to me, twice a day or whatever. But here we have this sense that God is saying, I had to take them out of Egypt in order to dwell amongst them. There's no way that as a nation they could have surrounded themselves with God or brought God into their presence if they're still sitting in Egypt, which is a land that's suffused with a different morality and pagan. God needs to enable the children of Israel to understand that theirs is not an Egyptian culture and theirs is not an Egyptian faith. And in order to do that, God has to take them out. And it's only by taking them out that he is then able to dwell amongst them. So this building of the tabernacle then is not just, let us feel God amongst us, but it is about enabling the whole process of the exodus of Egypt to come to its proper goal. And its proper goal is that God should be brought into the camp of Israel and the nation of Israel, both as a nation and each and every person individually, feel God within them and dedicate themselves to obeying God. Have a wonderful weekend. Shabbat Shalom.
I hope you enjoyed that film. And we have lots more film content and emails and articles that I'm sure you will enjoy as well. Check out our website at CFOIC.com and subscribe to our newsletter. You can do that right from the homepage. I know you will really enjoy the content that will land in your inbox on a regular basis. Hope to see you soon.